morning. We'll call this meeting of the Metropolitan Council to order Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's adopted. Now, everybody's thoroughly read their minutes, so I would love to consider approval of the minutes from the meeting on January 8th. Is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. So at this point, we have an opportunity for some public comments, and I understand we have two people who would like to address the council. I'll invite Rich Neumeister to come and please try to keep it within 3 minutes, and you're welcome to have the floor.
We'll see. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Rich Neumeister. I've been someone who's been around the block quite a bit, helping make legislative policy on open government, privacy, you name it, civil liberties. I'm here to make comment on the $1.3 million proposal about light rail live cameras. So I share these concepts with you. There's no ands or ifs or doubts about it. It's a high-tech surveillance system. And when law enforcement and government develops those kinds of systems, there are implications that come into play with privacy, Fourth Amendment privacy, and civil liberties. So those things that have not been addressed with this proposal, I think, need to be addressed. And those are the following: facial recognition. The system that you are getting will be available, easily accessible to adopt a facial recognition. Law enforcement agencies in the Twin Cities are starting to use that concept. There are a number of issues with that. I'm not here with that to deal with that. But that needs to be addressed with people in mind, with the public in mind. Secondly, microphones. There will be more high-tech use of technology of microphones so that when live, an officer or someone is viewing you or person you're with, they'll be able to hear the conversation. That rises to a Fourth Amendment privacy issue. Now, the law enforcement folks who will be up here later on will say, no, there's no Fourth Amendment privacy in the public. Well, as you know, that's been up for debate with the high-tech type issues. I know in helping the legislatures develop policy. The other issue is sharing with other agencies the information that will be gathered about that. Your retention in the item you read, your retention of 7 to 10 days, not a good one. When I helped City of Minneapolis develop their CCTV system in terms of some of the policies, they had it at that time between 7 and 14 days. So I'd like to see that down a little bit. The other item that's very important, I was involved on the issue of the GangNet system. I'm the one who did a data request, and I found out where 16,000 folks were on the GangNet system. A lot of them primarily folks of color, and they were on there for really no reason. It was done by the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. One of the things that I see that high-tech surveillance will do, that I have some concerns about, is that you're going to recognize maybe some people who the police might consider are troublemakers. And so then a list of names or people or identities will creep up to hundreds, who knows. And that has happened in other entities that have had high-tech surveillance. And if the things are not out and talked about publicly and directly, there are ramifications of this. So that's a question I have. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'm available. If any of the commission members wish to talk about developing good policy that at the same time does not do bad implications of the development of this policy. I think questions you need to ask, I've shared with them a little bit more, is the monitoring rooms, what is that? Real time, what is that? Because there are implications of our rights. And I don't think that thoroughly has been discussed. And Mr. Chairman, one last thing that I was really amazed that I didn't see. I was part of the CrimNet working group for 22 years as the privacy citizen rep. This is where millions of dollars was developed to use for statewide supervision and all that. And one of the things I helped create with the people over at the BCA was a privacy impact assessment. So you know when you bring new technology, the privacy implications. And I'm talking about Fourth Amendment privacy. You know, data practice is pretty well taken care of, but we're talking about more of Fourth Amendment intrusion, those kinds of things with this technology. Mr. Zell, who I think I've met once or twice up at the legislature, and many members here of the commission, thank you for the time. You do not allow to where comments can be made specifically like like the legislative process. But thank you for giving me the extra minute or two on a very important item that I think you need to have more thorough discussion about. And feel free to get contact. I'm going to be here until they make their presentation. What they're saying too.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments. We have an additional public presenter, Mr. Cass, Ms. Cass, Mr. Cass. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Cass Wayland. I'm the chair of the local Restore the Fourth organization, and we do Fourth Amendment issues. I'd like to echo the concerns raised by Mr. Neumeister and just echo his concerns and say that we were very surprised when we saw that you guys are making these purchases, and we would like to, we would basically just like to say that we want you to consider all the things that he mentioned. The facial recognition, the vendor that you guys are looking at supports facial recognition software on the systems right out of the box. They have white papers on their website, and if you guys were so interested, it would be as easy as contacting them and installing additional software on the cameras and on the computers that you guys are purchasing. And what we would like you to encourage is that you would put a practice and a policy in place that says before any additional automatic recognition or before any additional live artificial intelligence identification of the people who are going to be subjects of these things. If you want to turn that on, it's got to come before us, and we got to approve that. Because what I don't think anybody wants is some sysadmin in the back office deciding he's going to add some additional functionality without public input and without you guys necessarily knowing about it. So before enabling that stuff, before potentially risking the privacy of every single person who rides on these trains, have a more robust public input and have some discussion about these issues. Because for my job, I am a freelance cybersecurity. I do penetration testing, and I work with small businesses to help maintain their cybersecurity. And there is a lot of unknowns about this technology, and not only its implications on privacy, but its implications for victims of stalking, people having their data stolen and having having it be public every time and every place that they've gone. It's very important that you consider these implications before, and that you put in policies and practices in place before the technology is implemented, because what you don't want to have happen is have it be implemented and then have something bad happen, and then have you guys be reactive instead of proactive. I'm available for any additional questioning as well at the end of the meeting. I'd just like you to consider these things before deciding to flip the switch and turn it on. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for your comments. We're actually going to move now to our business agenda. Next order is a joint reports from the Transportation, Environment, and Community Development and Management Committees, and I believe Council Member Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. This amendment incorporates changes to the operating and capital component of the 2020 unified budget. The amendment has three parts. First, this amendment increases the council expenditures by $1.9 million and the use of reserves of the self-insured benefits internal service fund by $1.9 million to provide a one-time distribution of $500,000 to each employee's health care savings plan in April of 2020. The proposal has been reviewed and is supported by the Labor Management Benefits Advisory Committee. The second part is a transfer of $3.948 million out of the Arbitrage Reserve Fund and a transfer of $3.948 million into the Capital Debt Service account This transfer is necessary to provide cash flow assistance for awarded parks grants to local units of government. The third part is a change to increase the authorized capital program for the council by $78 million, incorporating changes to two projects. The ACP will be increased by $75 million for the Gold Line BRT, recognizing revenue from Ramsey and Washington County. It also adds $3 million to the ACP for the Haywood Bus Garage. This amendment incorporates changes to the 2020 Unified Budget reviewed and approved by the Transportation Committee on January 13th, Community Development Committee yesterday, January 21st, and the Management Committee on January 22nd. Mr. Chair, the motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the amendment of the 2020 Unified Budget as indicated in accordance with the attached table.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. This is an amendment to a budget, so we will have a roll call vote, but is there any discussion, question in advance? No? Then Liz, can you call the roll?
Yep. Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Chambliss.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Aye.
Councilmember Barber.
Aye.
Councilmember Atlas Ingebretson. Councilmember Lilligren.
Aye.
Councilmember Cummings.
Aye.
Councilmember Musse. Councilmember Zurin.
Aye.
Councilmember Lindstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Vento.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredson.
Aye.
Councilmember Sterner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye.
Chair Zelli.
The motion is passed. Thank you. The next agenda item is our consent agenda. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion has, and consent agenda is passed. Now we'll have the reports of standing committees. Councilmember Lindgren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Community Development Committee brings 4 items forward for consideration today. The first is the City of Oak Grove 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The City of Oak Grove is in the northwest part of Anoka County. Thrive has designated the city as rural residential, with the southeastern portion of the community as diversified rural to accommodate the post-2040 sewer serviced development. The city disputed their 2015 system statement showing these designations and requested a hearing before an administrative law judge, as is allowed under statute. In May 2016, the ALJ issued a decision in favor of the council, which the council subsequently adopted, denying the city's proposed changes to their system statement. The city was successful in pursuing special legislation to overcome that decision in 2017. A special law was passed that indicates that, quote, the area of the city subject to the ALJ's decision is designated as rural residential for the purpose of the city's 2040 plan. The special law also indicated that the council, quote, shall conform its Metropolitan Development Guide, systems plan, and the city's system statement to accommodate this directive. The city's plan was reviewed under these directives. Council staff find that the 2040 plan conforms to the regional systems plans, is consistent with council policies, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. First, authorize the City of Oak Grove to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect. Also, revise the community designation for the southeastern portion of the city to rural residential in accordance with the special law. And third, advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for wastewater, surface water management, land use, and water supply.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion is carried. Councilmember Lindgren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next is the Ramsey County 2040 Comprehensive Plan. It's business item 2020-11. Because the county does not have land use authority, its responsibilities for comprehensive planning are more limited, primarily focused on parks, transportation, and the Mississippi River Corridor critical area. Thrive forecasts that between 2020 and 2040, the county will grow by about 45,000 residents and nearly 37,000 jobs. Council staff finds that the 2040 plan conforms with regional systems plans, is consistent with council policies, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. First, authorize the Ramsey County to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, and also to advise the county to adopt the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Plan within 60 days after receiving DNR final approval, and submit the copy of the final adopted plan and evidence of adoption to the DNR Council National Park Service within 10 days after adoption. Also, that authorization of the city's plan does not commit the council to funding expansion or improvements to State Trunk Highway 36, the interchange at I-35E and County Road J, and Anoka County's interchange at County Road J I-35W, as these projects are not in the current revenue scenario for the TPP, the Transportation Policy Plan. And also, finally, to implement the advisory comments in the review record for forecasts and transportation.
Got that. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That has carried. Councilmember Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Business item 2020-15 is to award over $3.3 million in Livable Communities Tax Base Revitalization Account grant funds to support 11 redevelopment sites. Upon completion, the projects are expected to result in an annual tax base increase of $5.4 million in over 1,200 new housing units, which includes 76 units affordable to households earning below 30% of the area median income. 104 units will be at 50% of the area median income, or AMI. 693 units will be at 60% of the AMI, and 57 units at 80% of the AMI. Over 1,000 new and retained jobs, and over $643 million of leveraged private investment. 15 total applications were received, with 4 of the applications not meeting the minimum threshold for funding. The 11 projects are located throughout the region in Edina, Minneapolis, Roseville, and St. Paul. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council award 11 tax-based revitalization account grants totaling $3,337,800 to assist redevelopment projects in the cities of Edina, Minneapolis, Roseville, and St. Paul, and also to authorize our Community Development Division Director to execute the grant agreements on behalf of the council.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes.
I would just like to say that I would like to abstain because there's a company that I'm connected with regarding this.
All right, we will so note. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Councilmember Lilligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then the final item coming forward from the Community Development Committee is approval of a joint powers agreement between the council and the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. This is business item 2020-33. It's the same week item. We just acted on this in committee yesterday. It's to allow the Minnesota Public Housing Authority and the council's Metro housing, HRA to operate Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher program in the city of Minneapolis. The council's HRA has administered a federal continuum of care program since 1996, providing federal rent assistance to people with disabilities experiencing homelessness. The program rules changed, making continued administration infeasible. The changes lack funding for supportive services, and the program model has become very complicated. As a result, the Metro HRA is reallocating the Continuum of Care program back to the county continuums of care. The funding will remain in the region, but will give the continuums flexibility to award the funding in a more appropriate manner. The funds will continue to serve people experiencing homelessness. The program currently provides federal rent subsidy to 283 households. All will be transferred to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. 87 of the current households live in the city of Minneapolis. The Metro HRA does not generally operate the voucher program in Minneapolis. The Metro HRA, along with HUD, the county's Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, and the continuums of care, determined it would be in the best interest of the current households for the Metro HRA to continue serving the 87 households in Minneapolis. This requires a joint powers agreement. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council approve the attached joint powers agreement between the Metropolitan Council and the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority for the administration of Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program rent assistance in the city of Minneapolis, and authorize the Community Development Director to execute the agreement on behalf of the council.
Lovely. Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any
Mr.
discussion?
Chair, if I may, I just want to take a moment to thank Terry Smith from our staff and the rest of our staff for really working through these HUD and voucher changes, and it's become very complicated, and it takes a lot of creativity and collaboration to get to this point, and I just want to commend their work.
Well, thank you, Councilman Lilligren, and we really do appreciate finding the path through that complicated network. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that has carried. Thank you, Councilmember Lilligren. We're now moving on to the Environment Committee, and I actually have a presentation first as part of that committee report. I want to welcome Brian Davis. Brian is going to present on the business item 2020-30 as well as business item 2020-31, and then we will hear a motion after that. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, my name is Ali El Hassan. I'm the manager of water supply planning for the Met Council. I just would like to get about 2 minutes to introduce these topics and introduce the water supply planning unit to the council members. The water supply planning unit is part of the environmental services, and the unit is a 5 members unit with 3 PhDs and 3 PEs, and our length experience in water supply issues in the metro area. We complement that experience and expertise with consulting companies in the area. We hired consulting companies to help us with that, in addition to our partnership with communities and other agencies in the region. The Metropolitan Council is not a water supplier, but we are the planning entity for the metropolitan communities with regard to water supply. And this is stemmed from a legislation that's created in 2005 that created this unit within the Metropolitan Council. 2005, the state legislature directed the Met Council to carry out planning activities for the Metropolitan Council. As part of those planning activities is to develop what we call a master water supply plan for water supply sustainability in the region. And we have developed the first master water supply plan in 2010. And we updated that master water supply plan in partnership with all the communities in the metro area in 2015. One of the biggest goals of the master water supply plan is to continue to develop the region while we have sustainable water supplies. And we have been doing this in partnership with different partners in the region, including the 2 projects that Dr. Davis is going to be trying to explain to you today within the short time that we have today. But the first program is a partnership with the University of Minnesota and all the industries in the metro area. It's kind of a private-public partnership that we have been leading for the last 8 years. The second project that you will be speaking about is also partnership with the University of Minnesota, the extension services with regard to lawn irrigation, and we have been working with all the communities in the metro area about that. The university have been helping us in providing scientific technical information that we can distribute to all of our communities and the stakeholders in the region. And those programs have been helpful for us in also shaping how we can implement some of these good ideas coming out of the thinking tank in the university, and how we can share it with the communities, and help us in creating some grant programs that we came to the council for approval a couple of meetings ago. And with that, I would like to introduce Brian. Brian Davis is a senior engineer. He has a PhD in engineering, environmental engineering, and he will be speaking about those two projects.
Thank you for that introduction. Appreciate it. Welcome, Brian. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be talking about, as Ali said, two projects today that I think you'll find quite interesting, and they'll, I think, give you a little taste of the kind of work that we do in water supply planning and that we've been doing for a number of years now. I'm first going to talk a little bit about industrial and commercial water use in the metro area. That constitutes about 125 million gallons per day of the water demand in our area, which is about 30% of the daily water demand that we have here. Of course, if you're a business, you're interested in saving money where you can, and water is a cost for businesses, whether it's paying for it for getting it provided to you, or paying to have it treated in the sewer system, or in a lot of cases it's heating the water because you have a process that you are doing in your industry or your commercial setting with the water and it needs heat. And of course, heating water takes a lot of energy. So businesses are interested in becoming more efficient and saving money. Also, environmental stewardship is something that is important to many businesses. It's something that you see in corporate environmental policies and statements and things like that. So there's definitely an interest, but of course, one of the issues is that businesses are busy places, and they don't always have enough people or the right people with enough time to focus on these issues. Some of them do, some of them don't. Turns out that there is a really excellent organization in the state that's been here for a while called MNTAP, Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, out of the university. It's been there since 1984, and it is traditionally focused on energy efficiency and waste reduction in industries. We approached MNTAP back in 2012 to see if they were interested in working with our water supply planning unit to have more of a focus on water efficiency with industries and businesses. And they were very eager to participate with us, and we have since that date had a really extensive and a wonderful partnership working with them to affect water efficiency in businesses. There are a lot of good aspects to this program, and one of the best, I think, is that the program provides funding and opportunities to college summer interns to spend a summer working at a business in the metro area focusing on water efficiency. So these are college students, usually from Minnesota, not completely, but for the most part from Minnesota, many University of Minnesota students, but students from other universities too, engineers and scientists. And since inception and through 2019, we have funded 29 of those internships with the funding that we have. That has resulted in a cumulative savings of 230 million gallons of water per year at these industries, which is equivalent to over $1.6 million in savings every year for them, which is wonderful. But one of the things that I like especially about it is that it gives young people an opportunity to go out and apply some of the skills that they have learned as engineers and scientists in school, and learn new skills on the job in a setting where they have the opportunity to do all kinds of things that you can't do inside the classroom. So here are just a couple of the statements that we've received from the students at the end of their internships. This internship gave me the opportunity to learn practical skills and gain industry experience outside the classroom. And another student said, the MNTAP internship was a great opportunity to learn and practice skills not taught in my engineering curriculum, such as communication, project management, and economic reasoning. I'm super thankful for this experience. So what we are planning to do over the next 3 years is to continue the work that we have established with MNTAP and fund 15 more interns. That'll be 5 per year, starting in 2020 and running through 2022. This involves recruiting the companies to participate. We have to find them in the metro area and get the word out about the program, see if they're interested, and tell them how to do it. We have to
have the projects developed and scoped. The companies are selected, and then of course agreements have to be finalized, and then they have to hire and train and supervise the student interns. And it's a very popular program. The acceptance rate is about 10% for the students who are applying. So there's a lot of interest by students, and not quite enough companies to accommodate all of them. Hopefully there'll be more in the future. And then at the end of the summer, the students coordinate a public presentation at the university, and then they have their project published in a very good magazine that the university puts out called Solutions. That's the picture there is the staff at MinTap over at the McNamara Alumni Hall in Minneapolis. So they're a wonderful group to work with. I've been working with them for a number of years now. They're very skilled. They have a lot of insight into many different industries in the metro area and how they work, things that we wouldn't necessarily know in our small water supply planning unit, but they do. So it's been a really wonderful partnership that we have established. So that leads to the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorize its regional administrator to execute the contract amendment with MinTap at the University of Minnesota in the total amount of $315,000, making the contract total $747,500.
Thank you. Before we get to the motion, do any council members have any questions for Dr. Davis at this point? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Chair. Are there any specific ways that council members can help recruit businesses, educate them, find more to participate in the program?
Yes, Mr. Chair and council members, there is definitely a way that you can help. In fact, just today I received an email from MinTap, which is a kind of an email blast that goes to lots of recipients, which is focusing on exactly what you just said, looking for companies to apply to MinTap to have an intern for summer 2020. So I would be happy to forward that to the council, and you can forward it to any businesses, industries that you know of that might be interested. That would be wonderful. You know, it's always wonderful to have help getting the word out. That's a difficult thing in this day and age. There's lots of communication, but sometimes too much. You know, things fall down the email list easily. So that'd be wonderful.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lindstrom.
I may have asked this at our committee meeting. I apologize if I did, but we permit around 800 businesses, if I recall correctly, give or take. And I'm wondering if we can do any outreach ourselves to those specific industries or businesses that we permit to help them be more energy efficient, water efficient.
Yes, Mr. Chair and council members, that's a great question. The permits that we have through our industrial waste program for dischargers to the wastewater system, yes, many of them I'm sure would be very interested in this program, and we have worked with that other part of our organization on this before, but it's something that I think we should focus more on and expend more energy on kind of building the synergy between the two parts of our organization, because there's definitely a lot of potential there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Are there any opportunities for us to target some of the internships? I know, at least historically, there have been a lot fewer people of color in engineering programs. And given that it's a highly competitive, one of those opportunities to try to get some of those people to stay might be to target some of these internships. Do we have that opportunity, or could we write that into the work that we do with them?
Mr. Chair and council members, that's a great point. The way that the system that MinTap has right now set up is they are responsible for all of the applications and selection of students. They've done I think a pretty good job of selecting good students and matching them to the businesses, but I think that is I know that is a topic that needs to be addressed, just based on my own experience being an engineer for a while now, and I think that would be something that we could talk to MinTap about, and I know they would be very interested in doing anything they can to push for that. I'm not quite sure what shape that would take yet, but I know that they would be very receptive to it, based on my experience with them so far. I'm not sure how to answer that except to say that I support it. I think it's great, and it's something that we can push for, and should push for.
Councilmember Tom.
Thank you, Chair. I just, I just have a comment. I want to commend you all for this partnership. I always want to elevate younger voices, and especially with our climate crisis, we need to help train the next generation of leaders, engineers, and scientists to help us save our planet. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And is the information, well, first of all, we're gathering data. We can go back to the business, help them create efficiency. Is there best practices that can be transferred then to other businesses, or is it business specific? Just curious about how that might play forward as a best practice.
Mr. Chair and council members, that's another really good question because we've been talking about that just recently with MnTAP. Kind of a yes and yes answer to that. Some of the activities, of course, are business specific, and obviously because the businesses vary, they don't all do the same thing, obviously. But to get to the point of the transferability and the best practices, we just this year are working with MnTAP as part of the extension of the contract to start developing some kind of tool, which we don't know what the shape of the tool is going to be. It's going to be something online, electronic, maybe even a little better than that, which is going to look back at all the work that we've done with MnTAP since 2012, harvest the data, try to collate it and organize it in a way that we can not only share it with industries, but actually make a tool that different industries and businesses can use to find on their own what best practices could apply to them, so that in addition to having interns going out for summer and spending a summer there, for those businesses that don't want to do that, they can still get a benefit from all the work that's been done. And that's something that we haven't done that before, and I think we've kind of gotten to the point now where we have enough years of experience and data to actually mine it and make that something. So that is something that we're going to start on this summer, actually.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lindstrom, you may have a motion.
I do indeed. I would like to move the proposed action that the Met Council authorize its regional administrator to execute the contract amendment for contract 141007 with MnTAP at the University of Minnesota in attachment A of the business item in the amount of $315,000, making the contract total $747,500.
Lovely, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or more additional questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. We have another presentation.
Turfgrass.
Yes.
Thank you. The second and last presentation is about turfgrass irrigation efficiency in the metro area and the project that we have with the University of Minnesota Turfgrass Science Program to investigate this and get some best practices out of it and get the word out about how to be more efficient about it. Just a little background about the topic. Turfgrass irrigation has been increasing in the metro area since the 1990s, I would say. The graph on the far right shows anonymous community in the metro area. The green bars you see increasing pretty steeply are the summer water use in that community, and the blue bars are the winter water use. So what's been happening in not all communities, but many communities since the 1990s is the summer use has been diverging from the winter use because of turfgrass irrigation. This is it's not a new technology, but it's a newer technology. It really started to become prevalent in the mid to late 1990s and kind of took off in the next century, whereby now when you drive around in the summer, you'll probably see irrigation going on somewhere or in many places, depending on where you live. And oftentimes, there can be problems with the irrigation system. There's a picture of a broken sprinkler head on the left. We've probably all seen things like that, or the sprinkler going off in the rain, or irrigating, a bunch of pavement or something like that, or a combination of all those things. So that is an issue in a number of locations. And it's especially important because outdoor irrigation comprises about 30% on average of residential water use in the metro area. So it's something that's been increasing over time. And as I like to say, it's probably, if you have an irrigation system, it's probably the leakiest appliance in your house. And you might think, well, it's not really in your house, but it's at your house, and it is an appliance. I mean, no one would stand to have their dishwasher leaking all year long at the amount that some of these irrigation systems do. So there's a lot of opportunity to be better at this, we have found. We started working with the University of Minnesota Turfgrass Science Program back in the summer of 2015, and the first part of our work with them has focused more on data gathering and investigation, trying to turn this hint of, I think there's an issue with this, to actually having data that says, well, yes, there is really an issue, and it's this much of an issue. So we've been doing a number of things with the very talented and skilled staff there. Irrigation audits. We audited 60 different irrigation systems in the metro area back in 2015. The middle photo shows the rainout shelter, as they call it, at the St. Paul campus. This is a plot of land that has a translucent cover on rails over it. When it starts to rain, there's a rain sensor that senses the rain and moves automatically that cover over the plot of that area that you're trying to keep dry. So by using that facility, we have been able to take grass seed mixtures from big box stores of different types and cutting them at different heights and seeing just how drought tolerant they really are. We can put them, subject them to a 60-day drought with that facility while keeping all the light on them. And then after 60 days is over, roll them back in and see how they recover. So we're trying to see what grass types are better than others for withstanding a drought, which ones respond better. And then we've been applying that also on the campus. The far right side, the picture, it's an aerial view with a drone showing part of the campus where we have put in 7 different irrigation plots where we're looking at different controller and soil moisture technologies. We have water meters on all of them, and we're trying to find out which ones are the most efficient. In this case, we're trying to keep the grass quality exactly the same, but see how much water is needed to keep it exactly the same. That's quite different. These are some of the results that we have gleaned from 2 years there. What this shows is the percent reduction for 5 different technologies or approaches versus what we call the control plot. And the control plot is what about 40+% of people in the metro area do if they have an irrigation system, which is they set it on an every other day cycle and let it go all year that way until the fall when they shut it off. So about 40% of the people are really over irrigating and may not even be aware of it because the irrigation system runs at 5 a.m. They're not up looking at it. No one's out looking for leaks at that time of day, or very few people are. So what the results show here is that with these smart controllers and soil moisture sensors, we are able to reduce the amount of irrigation anywhere from 30 to 82% on these areas while keeping the grass quality exactly the same. And the smart controllers are something that it's a relatively new technology. These controllers use Wi-Fi to connect to the National Weather Service and other weather stations around you, and they look at the current conditions and the forecast, and they look at what I call the hindcast, what has already happened. And by taking that information, the controller automatically changes your irrigation schedule and will, if it has rained in the past couple of days, it will turn off, it will not let it irrigate. Or if it's going to rain tomorrow, it will not irrigate. So it's actually doing for you something that if you were a manually irrigator out there paying attention to it, you would do yourself. But most people are too busy to do that, really. So now we're focusing on getting the word out. With the extension service in the university, we have created signage that communities can customize and use to get the word out about these technologies. We are hosting events at the St. Paul campus where we have these controllers set up to bring people in to learn about them, show them how they work. That's the photo on the right with Dr. Dan Sanders showing how some of the controllers work. And if you've been at the State Fair in the horticulture building, if you've been to that area where the giant pumpkin is there, we have a station right across from there that we staff during the entire period of the fair, where we have controllers, soil moisture sensors, different grass types that are low input grasses, information that if you're interested, you can stop by and learn about it. And we've reached thousands of people that way. We've had really great interactions with people at the State Fair. It's a wonderful opportunity. And one of the new things we have coming, this is at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. We are just growing in, the photo you see here is from last fall, growing in a new demonstration and learning site where we have multiple controllers set up in the area at the Arboretum, and part of our plan is to hold educational sessions there in the next coming summers where we can show people how to do irrigation audits, show them how the different controllers work, what works best, what doesn't, different grass seed mixtures, how well they perform, all with the idea of teaching them on how to be more efficient, save water. We have a mobile education trailer, see on the left, that we're going to customize so we can take to farmers markets and environmental fairs with the controllers and the different grass seed mixtures and species set up, so we can take it kind of like a road show to people and show them, in a setting where they're interested in learning about it, like a farmer's market where people are walking around, paying attention to stuff like that. So that is part of our project. We're going to be expanding our educational offerings and getting the word out over the next couple of years with this group. So that leads to the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute the contract amendment or Contract 15 I-103 with the University of Minnesota in the amount of $268,393, making the contract total $591,205. And I'd be happy to take any questions about this.
I have to say, this is proof that a Met Council meeting, you learn something every day, so thank you. Are these controllers readily available? I mean,
yes, Mr. Chair, they're readily available. Every year there are new brands on the market. Many of them are WaterSense certified through the EPA WaterSense program, which is very important because that means that there's a standard that the controller has to meet in order to perform. So yes, there are probably hundreds at this point. It's really evolving rapidly.
Yeah. Other questions? Councilmember Johnson?
Okay, I will be brief. I'm very passionate about this, so thank you for all your work. Coming from local government, a couple of things would drive me nuts is just seeing water pouring out as you're running by in the middle of a rainstorm. And of course, with increasing rain amounts and flooding and all of that, and we're drawing down the aquifers or wherever you're getting your water from, it would just be mind-boggling. So 2 questions. Are we seeing local communities also then adjusting any water restrictions that they have on timing? Most have gone to the every other day, which isn't smart necessarily, because smart is better than just every other day. And then my second question is this aimed primarily at the homeowner, or are businesses taking advantage of this as well? And my third question is, certainly in some communities, many communities that are still developing, they come in with an HOA and they have a master plan. So I'm just wondering, are local communities working with developers so that everybody who moves into the 350 unit development, which has predetermined what their water sensor is going to be, has access to this information? And lastly, I just wish that we could get into the NERT ponds to pull out some of the water rather than the aquifers or wherever we're getting our water. Again, because you will see we're pulling it out of the aquifer. Big rainstorms come. That water then goes into the ponds as well, and we have localized flooding. So I will stop at that, and I'm so thrilled that we're doing this.
Okay, Mr. Chair and council members, yes, answers to these questions. Regarding the ordinances that communities have on irrigation, and are they changing their ordinances and restrictions based on new knowledge? And the answer to that is slowly, yes. Some communities have not. Other communities have begun to realize that the every other day paradigm is something that has really resulted in a feeling of artificial scarcity by some people, whereas they think that I can't irrigate tomorrow, so I have to do it today, which in many cases you don't need to do it tomorrow or today. So we have been in conversations with many of the utilities that we work with around the metro area, and they realize that this is something that needs to change. Now, the every other day timing is something that actually comes from the fire protection and keeping enough water in storage so they can fight a fire for 8 hours straight, which is the most important. But that being said, some of the communities are now starting to move into this is actually answering your third question with HOAs and communities requiring new developments to have smart controllers and other WaterSense certified technologies installed from the beginning. And by doing that, you're able to use the technology to you could leave the every other day ordinance in place, but by having the smart technology on top of it, you can mitigate the problem that every other day ordinance has created from the scarcity effect. So a few communities have been doing that, not anywhere near as many as we want. That's part of what we want to do in the next couple of years of work. It's a slow process, and the communities, I think, are leery of changing because they've done it this way for so long. But we're going to work really hard to try to get the word out.
Mr. Chair, if I may add, many of the communities actually started creating a rebate program for encouraging homeowners to buy the smart controllers. Regularly, the smart controller, you can buy it for $200 to $300. Many of the communities are giving a rebate between $50 to $100. And actually, some of the communities, I know that they sell it for their residents for $20. So they're supporting $180 from the actual value, the market value of the smart controllers. And I can see that there is a big trend in the communities in the metro area on having those rebates program created. And we are happy to say that all of those rebate programs are created by grants from the Met Council.
Thank you. Other questions? Well, Council Member Lindstrom, you have a motion?
I do indeed, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. I'd like to move that the Met Council authorize the regional administrator to execute the contract amendment for contract 15103 with the U of M in attachment A in the amount of $268,393, making the contract total $591,205.
Thank you. Is there a second? Yes. Thank you. Any discussion? Question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you so much for your presentation. Really informative, and you can tell from the spirit here, we're very supportive and interested in
Wonderful. Thank you.
So we're going to move on to the Management Committee. Council Member Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one business item. It is item number 2020-13, same week, an internal loan for cash flow of Parks Capital Funds. The council typically issues tax-exempt bonds annually to fund the division's capital project cash flow needs for 12 to 18 months. The parks issue bonds to cash flow the regional match. Based on the regional parks implementing agency spending pattern, bond proceeds were expected to be exhausted in the summer of 2020. The regional parks implementing agency spending patterns in the third and fourth quarters of 2019 increased at a rate which outpaced historical averages and have exhausted the current bond proceeds. Council's investment policy number 3, finance and asset management, short-term loans may be made across units. Any loan for more than 3 months or $10 million must be approved by council. The Parks Capital Fund will pay interest charges to the pool. The 2020 bonding process begins in February, and we expect closing on the bond issues the end of May. The loan will be paid back with the new bond proceeds no later than July 31st, 2020. Mr. Chair, the motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorize internal loans to cover cash flow needs of Parks Capital Funds.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any questions, discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carried. Now we're moving on to transportation. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 6 items for you tonight. The first item is business item number 2020-9 is regarding the approval of a contract for software that improves rider alert distribution and reconciles rider alert and next trip data for more accurate and complete real-time customer information. Metro Transit launched a Riders Alert initiative in 2014 to communicate information about planned detours and disruptions based on customer feedback. In 2017, the program was expanded. Though the program has expanded, the current software system staff use to communicate alert information are not streamlined, do not reflect alert information in NextTrip, Metro Transit's Trip Planner, or Google or other third-party apps, and are only sent to customers who sign up at the route level. Implementing new Alerts Manager and real-time concentrator software will provide more consistent, timely, relevant, and accurate detour and disruption alert information that is reflected in the information and planning tools customers use to make transit use decisions, improving the customer experience. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a sole source contract 19P218 with IBI Group to provide software implementation, support, and maintenance services for an alerts manager and real-time concentrator system for 3-year period in an amount not to exceed $800,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think that motion carried.
Mr. Chair, council members, business item number 2020-12 is to purchase software that improves the accuracy of next trip real-time departure prediction information. There were 80 million unique trackable next trip requests in 2018. With the current system, prediction accuracy tends to deteriorate when buses are delayed, such as during times of heavy winter weather or event traffic, which is when customers depend on the information most. Prediction accuracy and availability have been persistent and significant sources of customer complaints. Metro Transit had a robust 2-phase process to select the best option for improving prediction accuracy. After an open and competitive process, 2 vendors were selected to participate in Phase 1. During Phase 1, both vendors set up software to generate predictions for all bus routes and stops. Both vendors demonstrated that they met all technical requirements. The vendors' predictions were evaluated alongside the current system. Cambridge Systems generated the best predictions and offered the biggest improvement over the current next trip predictions. Implementing a prediction engine that will improve accuracy and availability significantly will also serve to improve customer experience. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the regional administrator to negotiate contract 18P322 with Cambridge Systematics Incorporated to provide real-time departure prediction software implementation, support, hosting, and maintenance services in an amount not to exceed $972,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. Councilmember Barber.
Mr. Chair, council members, business item number 2020-14 is regarding the approval of the recommended Metro E-Line alignment. The recommended alignment is the result of the E-Line corridor study conducted over the past year. The primary question during the analysis of the advanced alternatives was whether the E-Line should run via France Avenue or Xerxes Avenue to serve Southdale Transit Center. France Avenue was selected as the recommended alternative because it would provide improved access to the major commercial nodes at 44th and 50th and France, as well as Fairview Southdale Hospital. Throughout the study process, France Avenue has had the most public support. In the November public comment period, 92% of comments were either supportive or neutral to the recommended alignment. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council approve staff's recommended alignment for the Metro E-Line.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, question? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. Councilmember Barber.
Getting there. Mr. Chair, council members, business item number 2020-21 is regarding the procurement of a live streaming video system for all light rail vehicles that will be used by both rail operations and the Metro Transit Police Department to improve both rider experience and public safety and security. The current video system has exceeded its life cycle. Live streaming video is a 21st century system that provides clearer video resolution, allows a broader view of each rail car, and uses cloud technology that allows timely video sharing with partner law enforcement agencies. The cameras will be monitored in real time, and police will be able to bring up video on their squad car computers. This is a sole source contract with Hitachi because both rail operations and the police department have found Hitachi's system to meet or exceed all business needs. The vendor is highly responsive and has a local office here in Bloomington. The software is used by St. Paul and Minneapolis police departments and is also non-proprietary, allowing for easy integration with various camera brands. All video data is subject to the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. Video will be retained for up to 10 days. However, video can be downloaded and retained in compliance with the council policy as needed. Funding comes from the operating budget, shared 50% by the council and 50% by the counties. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a sole source contract with Hitachi Vantara Corporation for the purchase and installation of a new camera surveillance system for 91 light rail vehicles for an amount not to exceed $1,300,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just do want to communicate that we do have a policy in place for how we handle video, how we retain video, all of that. It is the intention because once we authorize the procurement, there is time before these will be installed, that policy, the current policy, which we use for all of our systems, which do have video surveillance of different standards and grades, will be reviewed to make sure that a number of the concerns that have been raised tonight are addressed and everything is consistent. And any changes that would be made to those policies would come back before the likely management and transportation committees.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And Councilmember Lindstrom.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious if that would include facial recognition was one of the items brought up specifically. Would it also be your understanding that would come back before the committees or the entire council?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
At this point, the software that we're ordering does not have a facial recognition feature. I've not heard of that intention and in any of the discussions. It could be something that we put in the policy that if something like that were to be considered, it would have to come back because the factors that bring it back to us are changes in policy or certain dollar spending thresholds. And I'm not sure what that is, but it's something that we could build in so that we knew if a decision was going to be made that way, it would come back before the body.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Vinton?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I would like us to have some, not have some, but to have solid assurance if we approve this tonight that policy is going to be something we discuss at a future, not too distant future meeting, just so we have a better idea of what it says, and that also the provisions that you've mentioned are going to be incorporated into it are done so. My concern is the potential unintended consequences. Without a doubt, I'm fully committed to the safety and well-being of our employees, of our riders, of the public. But I think that the privacy concerns are ones where the unintended consequences could really bite us. And to the extent that we can get ahead a little bit, I'd appreciate it. When Facebook came out, I think everybody thought it was a great idea, and we now know what a nightmare that can be. And I don't want to be a party to that if we can avoid it.
Councilmember Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo those comments as well. So in my former role as a city council member, when we were looking at issues like this, and certainly data privacy and data practices were something we had to comply with, but to the point of privacy that goes beyond that and the unintended consequences, it was something we would wrestle with. And I guess I have a question of process. Is there anything that is urgent that we need to move forward with this now as far as procurement before the policy is reviewed, revised potentially, and set? I guess way that I just bring my experience with me is that we would work on the policy, vet the concerns, get that where it needed to be, make sure that whatever vendor we were working with could meet or exceed the policy and expectations. And then when everybody felt comfortable about the questions and concerns that were raised by the governing body or the public, we would feel very comfortable then moving forward with procurement. So I'm just trying to understand the order by which we're doing this and if there's any reason we couldn't work on policy and then go into procurement.
Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The preferred route would be to proceed with the procurement now. We've got about 6 months before that would be in place, so there's time before to review everything. Part of the reason it wasn't a bigger issue is we do have a policy in place for privacy data practices. We do have live cameras. We do have a number of these things already out there. This is just having them on our trains. And so it's because we have some of these things already in place, I do think it warrants a review. Yes, we can certainly make sure we bring it, whether we bring it to a committee of the whole or something where we can have a good discussion about it. I think that's a good idea because it isn't just this. We just had a discussion a few weeks ago about the police body cams, and we've got these other elements in our systems that we are using, and it is becoming a broader issue across all of technology. So it's a good idea and could be a good opportunity to review the policy.
And I think I certainly support that we as council members should become more informed about our current practice and what the best practice is in other jurisdictions. But as council member Barber mentioned, we do have live cameras, and currently in our platforms, we do adhere to federal and local requirements in terms of privacy. So it's not an arbitrary practice, but in case there's any question about our current situation, it's been lawful and that's been taken into consideration. But Representative Chamberlain, Councilmember Chapman.
Thank you. At the Transportation Committee, there was no mention of facial recognition as a part of this technology, and so I would trust that it is not included. And we understand that as technology continues to improve and evolve, and it happens so quickly, that we just get in the habit of reviewing our policies on a regular basis.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to tackle those concerns and also to address one particular concern that Mr. Neumeister addressed earlier. He mentioned the gang strike force, and for those of us in the room who may not be familiar with that, a couple years ago there was a metro-wide task force of law enforcement officers who investigated gang activity. And there were unfortunately, some very bad apples in some of those positions. And they, they shook down citizens. They stole evidence, disappeared evidence, and that's why the legislature got involved and the BCA got involved. And some heads got rolled like they should have been, and it was disbanded like it should be. My point is, I echo your concerns, and I think that we have to have faith and trust in our laws and our systems to know that we do and we will hold our systems accountable. Thank you.
Any other comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, the motion passed. We're now at the joint report of environment and community. Oh, I'm sorry. We have one more. We have two more.
I have two more. I'm not done yet.
I got so
not done yet.
taken away with your last motion.
All right.
Councilmember Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, council members. Business item number 2020-22 authorizes the award and execution of a contract with Haywood Bus Garage Constructors, a joint venture for the construction of the Minneapolis Bus Garage. The Minneapolis Bus Garage will provide additional bus storage to support service expansion to connect more people to work, school, healthcare, recreation, and other destinations. The project will address current garage capacity limitations and situate the agency to proactively plan to accommodate the anticipated fleet expansion for the next 15 years. OEO set a DBE goal of 15%. OEO determined that the Haywood Bus Garage Constructors passed the DBE evaluation by meeting the numeric goal. The location of the project is northwest of the existing Haywood Bus Garage, just west of downtown Minneapolis. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorizes award and and execution of contract 19P000A with Haywood Bus Garage Constructors, a joint venture, in the amount of $113,115,915 for the construction of the Minneapolis Bus Garage. It's Haywood Expansion Electric Bus Infrastructure Project number 62312.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. Councilmember Barber,
It's the last one.
last one.
The last one. Mr. Chair, council members, business item number 2020-23 authorizes the award and execution of a contract with Braun Intertech Corporation for independent testing agency services for construction of the Minneapolis Bus Garage. This contract supports construction of the new Minneapolis Bus Garage by providing third-party independent testing agency services to ensure the garage is properly constructed. Examples of testing and inspection services include concrete testing, asphalt, masonry, structural steel inspections, welding inspections, soil and environmental testing, vibration monitoring, pile driving, etc., to ensure materials and installation meet specified quality requirements. OEO assigned a 10% DBE goal to this project and determined that Braun Intertech passed the DBE evaluation by meeting the numeric goal. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorizes award and execution of contract 18P430 with Braun Intertech Corporation in the amount of $918,898.64 for independent testing agency services for construction of the Minneapolis Bus Garage.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right. Oh, there's Councilmember Chambliss.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that there are 400 plus living wage jobs when this facility is at full capacity and 300 plus construction jobs, which is absolutely fabulous.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you, Councilmember Barber. Now, the joint report of Environment and Community Development Committees. Councilmember Lilligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following 5 business items are comprehensive plans for communities that are connected to the regional wastewater system. So they were all heard in community development and environment committees. For all of these communities, council found that these 2040 plans conform to regional systems plans, are consistent with council policies, and are compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Business item 2019-331 is a 2040 comprehensive plan for Carver County and approve the Lake Township Comprehensive Sewer Plan. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. Recommendations from the Community Development Committee: authorize the Carver County to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect. Also revise the Lake Township's forecast upward as shown in Table 2 of the attached review record. And also revise the Lake Township's sewer service employment forecast upward as shown in Table 3 of the attached review record. The recommendation from the Environment Committee is to approve Lake Township's comprehensive sewer plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councilmember Lilligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is business item 2020-2 to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Waconia. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. Recommendations from the Community Development Committee: authorize the city of Waconia to put into effect the portion of its 2040 comprehensive plan pertaining to areas within the city's boundaries as of November 19th, 2019, and those portions of Lake Township for which the city has an existing orderly annexation agreement, or an OAA. Also advise the city of Waconia that the council has reviewed the remainder of the plan and has found no regional system conformance or policy consistency issues at this time. Because the city does not have the legal authority to plan and zone for areas within Waconia Township in the absence of an OAA, the city may not put those portions of the plan into effect at this time. At such time as the city of Waconia acquires jurisdiction over the lands planned for future urbanization in Waconia Township, either through an orderly annexation agreement or an annexation by ordinance, the city will need to submit appropriate plan amendments to the council for further review and action. Also advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for surface water management, land use, and water supply. The recommendation from the Environment Committee: approve the City of Waconia's comprehensive sewer plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to do a little shout out for the Community Development Director for the City of Waconia, Lane Broughton, who came in from Waconia to watch this tonight. So welcome.
Oh, cool.
Lovely. Welcome. Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. Thank you. Councilmember Milligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next business item is 2020-3. It's to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Brooklyn Park. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. Recommendations from the Community Development Committee: authorize the city of Brooklyn Park to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect. Also revise the city's forecast downward as shown in Table 1 of the attached review record. Also revise the city's affordable housing need allocation to 795, and advise the city to adopt the Mississippi River Critical Corridor Area, or MRCCA plan within 60 days after receiving final DNR approval, and submit a copy of the final adopted plan and evidence of adoption to the DNR, the council, and National Park Service within 10 days after adoption, and advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for forecast, housing, and water supply. Recommendations from the Environment Committee: approve the City of Brooklyn Park's comprehensive sewer plan and advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for wastewater.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councilmember Milligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item is business item 2020-4 to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Golden Valley. Mr. Chair, I move that Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. Recommendations from the Community Development Committee: authorize the city of Golden Valley to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect. Also revise the city's forecast upward as shown in Table 1 of the attached review record. Also revise the city's allocation of affordable housing needs to 222 units, and advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for surface water management. The recommendation from Environment Committee: approve the City of Golden Valley's comprehensive sewer plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councilmember Lilloye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And finally, the next business item is 2020-4 to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Golden Valley. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council. Oh, I just did that one. Sorry. It was so good I wanted to do it twice. I apologize, Mr. Chair. The final business item is 2020-10 to authorize the 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Chanhassen. Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the attached advisory comments and review record and take the following actions. Recommendations from the Community Development Committee: to authorize the city of Chanhassen to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect. Also to revise the city's forecast upward as shown in Table 1 of the attached review record, and revise the city's sewer service forecast upward as shown in Table 2 of the attached review record, and to advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for surface water management. And the recommendations of the Environment Committee: approve the City of Chanhassen's comprehensive sewer plan and implement the advisory comments in the review record for wastewater.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has carried. And that, I believe, is our reports from our committees. I really appreciate the work of staff and all those committees. That's quite a lot of plans and quite a lot of important work that's been passed. I have one brief report. I want to thank everybody for giving me their thoughts about the committees that they serve, and I appreciate, if anybody hasn't so far, you're free to email me or call me. We'll kind of affirm membership very shortly. I think we're required under statutes, so but we'll kind of affirm that over the next few weeks. So, does any other council members have any reports that they'd like to give? Councilmember Cummings.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention, I think we all got an email from Hannah Palmer about the tribal training opportunity during the year. And I went January 5th and 6th to Mille Lacs for the training. It was absolutely outstanding. I gained so much from it. And I know that these are already filling up really, really quickly. She's got the full schedule in that email. And I would strongly urge anyone who's able to go to look at their calendars and reserve a spot. I think the council only gets a couple of spots, so it is challenging to get in there, but it is really, really a wonderful experience. I made some great, established some great relationships and learned a lot and have been in communication with some of the individuals who presented and so forth. It's just of huge value. So I strongly urge people to go if there's any way you can take advantage of it.
And I mentioned this to Councilmember Cummings that was developed and has been maintained by the Department of Transportation. So I went to the very first one, and I would echo her thoughts that this is a life-changing kind of experience. So, and if you have a trouble getting in, call me because I know where they live. So. Other reports? Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to report out on a very cool event that Councilmember Wolf and I got to do a couple of weeks ago. So one of my favorite things, at least one of my favorite things, is to go out to some of the bus garages. And we spend a lot of time around Self Garage. We show up for Transit Driver Appreciation Day. We're out there for different events. And it was very flattering when they reached out to us when they were doing an event for one of their operators who was there celebrating 40 years of service for Metro Transit. And it was absolutely a wonderful experience. And to be around the operators and so many who work so hard and have been engaged with our group for so long was just really, it was really rewarding. And it was, and I thought quite flattering actually that they decided to call and invite us to their party.
Oh, very nice. Others? Councilmember Benton.
Last week, Mr. Chair, last week I had the opportunity to join Councilmember Lindstrom at the ISD 623 Roseville Area Schools quarterly meeting of local area officials. And I'm not a morning person, so being anywhere at 7:30 fully clothed and coherent is kind of beyond me anymore. But it was a wonderful morning. And as someone whose background is in education and whose career also includes a 5-year privilege of working with the Roseville area teachers, it was just really great to go back there and to hear what that district is doing. And we had a particularly heartwarming and in other ways dispiriting conversation about homelessness and its impact on schools. So what we do here makes a difference, and those relationships we make at every level are crucial to the work we're doing.
Councilmember Lindstrom.
Just to build off of that, there's good news and bad news that around that area. The bad news is in the Roseville area schools, there's well over 100, maybe hundreds of homeless kids tonight that are sleeping on a sofa or in a car or RV or whatever. That's the bad news. The good news is that there's an effort in the Roseville area called Homelessness Starts at Home. And it's where there's just a very focused effort to identify young people and then get them the services that they need. So there's folks from the school district, the county, the cities, all working together on this effort, and they seem to be making good progress. So thanks for joining me that morning. It was fun.
Councilmember Venta?
I want to just add one more, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to add one more thought as it relates to homelessness. And I learned this lesson about 30 years ago when giving a presentation at the University of Minnesota on what educators need to know before they go into the classroom as it relates to laws and the code of ethics. And we were having a pretty robust discussion around abuse of minors and what the state law says about it. And as we were having the discussion, a young man raised his hand and described having been a lifeguard at a very affluent country club here in the Twin Cities, and how he and his fellow employees at that club realized that there was a family where the children were being abused. It was quite evident. And just recently, I had a conversation with a friend whose grandson is homeless, and he comes from a family with resources, but the breakdown of the family is part of what's going on and part of what has created this circumstance for him. And it reminded me that we need to keep our minds open as to all the contributing factors for young people, and that conversation we had last week, our partners in the schools, the school counselors, the classroom teachers, the secretaries, the bus drivers, everybody has a connection with kids. And so to the extent that we can keep working strongly with schools, I think it's to the advantage of our whole region.
Thank you. Other reports, comments? The regional administrator, general counsel, do you have any comments?
I will just add that next week, the 29th, is the equity conversation. We may look at a venue across the street, so keep your eyes peeled for an email about location, and 2 hours will go fast. So the facilitator has asked me to ask everyone to try to be a little bit early so we can get going and have a really robust conversation. So,
yeah.
No report.
Well,
I had a question for the reader. Sorry, thank you, Chair. We also had been told that photos were being retaken that day before. Is that being rescheduled or?
Great question. I'm not totally in the loop on that, but I don't think it would be rescheduled because we would be just next door, so it'd be.
But probably want to make sure that we allow.
Right, we'll get it
time.
done. Yeah, we'll get it done in advance. I'll double check on that. Thank you. Our new communications director, Terry Drezen, is here, so we'll have a conversation about that.
Any other questions? Ann? No? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?